how exactly was Cid's essence handed down to Clive?
It's good to see you, Cid.
He's the first that can take icon powers from others that we know of in the history of dominance on the world, right? So how did he inherit Cid's legacy? That's the question.
So you're talking legacy or icon powers?
Not the icon powers. That part was obvious. They showed us
It's
that.
like he puts his hand on his chest and he's like, here you go. Then he dies.
What I can't figure out is like, is inheriting Cid's legacy as simple as the guy just started calling himself Cid? Or was there something else that like, I don't know, he inherited or he ingested or whatever that
he like takes a potion and now he's Cid.
Right. That made him the new Cid as opposed to just like, hey, I'm going to take Cid's name because I'm going to carry on his mission.
That's interesting. Okay. So first of all, I would say I'm not in love with him taking Cid's actual name.
You're as stubborn as the old Cid was.
I thought it was a little bit
weird.
Forced, a little bit weird. It's like, no, his name is Clive. Just call him Clive and he can still have the same like responsibilities. So I wasn't in love with that, but you know, wasn't a deal breaker or anything like that. The game is still awesome. As far as him taking his legacy, my assumption from a writing perspective is that Clive, after witnessing Cid die and after making a pact that he was going to continue what Cid started, Clive decides to basically take a leadership role, goes back to the hideaway where I assume everybody was just in disarray because it had just been destroyed, right? And he takes that stance where he's like, I made a pact, let's do this, and kind of evolved into the leader of that group. And then they just started calling him Cid for, I don't know what reason. That's kind of, I think it could have been as simple as that. Like he made a pact.
I think so.
He saw Cid die, and now he wanted that legacy to continue since he had fully at that point bought into what Cid was doing.
Right. So when I went trying to find this on the internet, I actually couldn't find it in a Reddit thread, but I did find an article on it's theloadout.com. And it's kind of alluding to what you're saying. This thing was so weird the way it happened, but it says Clive takes the mantle of Cid, the outlaw, in Final Fantasy XVI after his friend, Sidolphus Telamon, dies during a mission to destroy Drake's head, one of the 5 mother crystals. Clive takes the alias to honor Cid's legacy of the hideaway in hopes of saving more bearers and dominance. So
kind of along the same lines.
This is the weird part. Like maybe it's just looking at it from like a Western or modern lens. Like there's plenty of times where someone dies and someone decides they're going to carry on their mission. But I've never heard of somebody taking the other person's name.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That was the weird part for me.
I didn't really buy that. Like, and I love Cid. Maybe that's part of the reason I don't love that they took his name. It's like, no, there's one Cid, and that was the Cid, the guy that we all loved, right?
I mean, there's also the running joke that like Cid is in almost every Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but he only needs to be in it once.
Right. It's just
right. And I thought, to your point, though, it was cool because Cid's almost always associated with an airship, right?
Right.
Usually an airship pilot. But in this case, he was an airship pilot in such a different way because he wasn't actually a real practical pilot. He was the pilot of a mission, and then there was a new hideaway based around accomplishing that mission that was built out of an airship. So I thought that was really clever. I like that.
Right. It was a ancient or whatever magic-driven airship, right?
Right.
That they took over as their new hideaway.